So, to answer an old question that Christians or every Christian would have asked themselves at some stage, if the Messiah was Jewish, and if God established a Jewish faith, if the Old Testament was the standard of faith even during the time of the Messiah, then why is there a new faith? Why is there Christianity? Why aren't Christians living a Jewish faith? And the answer to that question lies in a suppressed history, or a history that you, as a common member of the church, you're not supposed to know, not because it's not a secret, but you're not going to become a theologian, so you have no use for it. So you are forever blind to that bit of history. But it happens to be the most important bit of history. Now, the disciples of Yeshua, or Jesus, they were his disciples. And in the Jewish sense, disciples become a follower of a rabbi so that one day they can graduate and become rabbis themselves. Now, in the Greek tongue, the word shlichim means envoys or emissaries, which implies rabbis who go from place to place establishing Jewish schools and the Jewish faith. But the Greek language surprises us and gives us a word like apostolo, which means someone who sends, who is sent from place to place, or literally someone who brings mail. Apostolo. So, in the Greek, the sense is lost and the context is lost. Now, in these shlichim, or apostles, many things happened to them, and they went to different parts of the world, of course, sharing the news of Messiah and establishing Jewish schools and Jewish practice. Prominent disciples, or a prominent disciple of Rabbi Shaul, or or Paul, his name was Clement. Clement was from Rome. 64 AD or 64 CE, Common Era, Rabbi Shaul dies. He is martyred in Rome. He is crucified. Sorry, that's Peter. But anyways, he goes to Rome and he perishes in Rome. That leaves only one rabbi. It leaves one original disciple who became a rabbi of Yeshua, and that is John, who was on the island of Patmos. John's disciple may have been Ignatius of Antioch. There's also a Clement of Alexandria, Egypt. What these three men have in common is that they are part of a 12 to 14 man team that are known in Christian history as the Church Fathers. So 96 AD, John is on the island of Patmos, and he eventually succumbs to death. When he dies, there seemingly isn't any leadership in Nazarene Judaism. But there were Nazarene Jews who were Jewish people, plenty of them, who were followers of who? Of Yeshua. Now you might ask yourself the question, why isn't there any leadership? Where was Yaakov or James, the brother of Yeshua? The truth is, the Romans began a crackdown on anyone who was of the bloodline of King David, and systematically started killing everyone related to Yeshua or King David. Now, with the death of Yochanan or John, all of a sudden the movement seems to not have a leader. Now, here's what's interesting. In the book of Acts, when they were replacing Judas, who had betrayed Yeshua, it is said that they prayed and invited the Holy Spirit to become part of this process, and they cast lots. The process of appointing a new person, a new disciple who would replace Judas. But now in 96 AD, we see something different. We see the disciples of the apostles taking matters into their own hands, not to continue with Nazarene Judaism, but to do something completely different. Clement of Rome, a Gentile, Ignatius of Antioch or Turkey, another Gentile, Clement of Alexandria, another Gentile. They had one thing in common: anti-Semitism. They were sick of Jews. They didn't want Jews. They didn't want Judaism. They wanted to do something different. So them, together with other church fathers, people like Marcion, they began to move away from Judaism. The first piece of theology would come from Marcion in the form of what's called replacement theology, where this new religion started preaching that God had replaced the nation of Israel with Gentiles, and that Yeshua is now of the Gentiles and not of the Jews, because the Jews had rejected him. And so replacement theology began, and the basis of replacement theology is to get rid of Judaism in the faith, which is very strange because the faith that were given to us by Messiah is 100% Jewish. So Marcion worked the theology. People like Clement of Alexander went around preaching against Jews, preaching against Judaism. They hated everything that is Jewish. What do these church fathers do? The first thing they did was replace the Sabbath with Sunday. The church fathers said, because Yeshua rose from the grave on the first day of the week, which is a Sunday, they call the day the Lord's Day. Therefore, in their propositions, in their thinking, they said that we should not keep the Jewish Sabbath. Since we're moving away from the Jews, we should have a new Sabbath, which is a Sunday, the day of the Lord. The next thing that they would change was Passover. Instead of Passover, the Western traditions of their pagan origins were honored, such as what's called Easter or Ishtar, instead of the traditional biblical Passover. And not only that holiday, but other pagan holidays started taking a lot of Jewish holidays started taking pagan flavor. So they replaced the Sabbath. They replaced even the Messiah. The church fathers started preaching a Jesus that is different from Yeshua, depicting him not in his traditional Jewish robes, which would have tassels, tzitzit, and a shawl to cover one's head in prayer, or even a Jesus whose head is covered. They started having this image, or this proposing this image of a civilized Jesus, a Hellenized Jesus with long hair, which Jesus would not have had long hair, and one who is obviously evolved into a blonde hair, blue eyes type of Messiah. And so they made a faith without Torah. So they got rid of the Sabbath, they got rid of the 7 Sabbaths of the year, they got rid of the Torah, they called it the law. But as we know, the Torah is not the law. The law exists within the Torah. Torah means a teaching, and Torah teaches us or shows us the character of God. So if you reject the Old Testament, you are rejecting the character of God. So these church fathers rejected the character of God, and they said it was old, hence Old Testament. They wanted something new, hence they call the renewed covenant the New Testament. What I want you to know is that during this time, from 96 AD to 180 AD or CE Common Era, there was no Christianity. Christianity did not exist, but the movement leading to Christianity had begun, as I've told you so far. The book of Acts mentions the word Christian, I think, about 3 times. And the most important one to note, it says they were first called Christians in Antioch. Now, the word Christiani in world history is not associated with the Nazarene Jews. Christiani is associated with a Roman ruler named Justinian, who came to rule from Antioch to rule the region from Antioch. And Justinian, actually, it's not Justinian, I think it's Julian, beg your pardon, Julian. And Julian was concerned with the Christiani because he viewed them as a political movement and not a religious movement. Let me just explain that to you. So, I told you so far that the church fathers, a reason for moving from Judaism to a new religion is because of politics. They hated the Jews. They hated everything Jewish. And that's why they proposed a new religion and a new way of doing things. So the basis of Christianity is politics, and the foundation of Christianity is anti-Semitism, and I dare say racism. And therefore, with all these changes during these times, the political flavor of this new religion is apparent to even the rulers of the region. So by the time we jump from 96 AD, we jump to the 4th century, to when Julian lived. Then we get to understand that when Julian said, what is the agenda or the problem of the Christiani, he was interrogating their political exploits and interests and not talking about their religious views. He had no idea they were religious.